streaming now, so let me pull this open. Everyone, I'm here with Samantha Kalman. She's sent me her game, and it's called SENTRIS, and it's a music SENTRIS. It's a music puzzle game, and I'm going to try it for the first time. She very graciously gave me a little demo build here, and I saw the Kickstarter. I'll give you guys a link to the Kickstarter, but it's really intriguing, sort of the way that it looks. All right, let me just make sure the controls are adjusted here. And I was wondering how it would play, and now I get the chance to see for myself, so that's exciting.
There you go. Yeah, I'm excited to hear your live impressions as we go.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. So, it's a very nice title screen.
Well, thank you.
And
yeah, I tried to put a lot of thought into the sound itself, like what's, right from the start, I'm introducing this company, I'm introducing this game, it's a lot of new mechanics, and the sound, I really want to just catch people's attention right away.
All right. I'm pretty sure I started recording.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm seeing a circle here, I'm seeing some shapes, and things are getting started.
Yeah, so what you have here is the canvas. The canvas is like the, the space that holds your song. So it's broken up into these segments of time, and you have these different layers. There's a bunch of pieces or a bunch of positions in the canvas that have a colored border. And these are the targets. So the puzzle mechanics of the game are to using the incoming sequence of notes, of sound blocks, which is like the outermost sequence. I think it should be all yellow right now for you.
Yes, it is all yellow.
Yeah. So using that, you're dropping in pieces one at a time, and you're trying to fill all of the target positions at once with the matching colors.
I see that. Okay. This is interesting. And it's circling back around, and it's playing the notes that I laid down before. I like that.
Exactly. So it's kind of, in a way, a gamification of a sequencer, but really that was more of a result of the design than the intention. The intention was really to simply have a way for one person to be able to play all four instruments of a band at once. So
yeah, this is amazing.
Thank you.
I really like. I've always thought about sort of the idea of musical games, but the thing about that is it's really hard to pull off something successfully with like a musical game without someone having like a really extensive knowledge of how music would work.
Yeah, I think that's we've seen other music games that have tried to do things like this. Like I think that one of the more successful ones was Jam or Lammy, in that once you learned how to play well, like get the excellent scores in each sort of sequence of the song, it would open it up to freestyle mode, and you could just play and play and play. But even there, it was really a game about rhythm only, about pressing the buttons over time, not so much about choosing the tonality. And that's where it gets really tricky with music and games, is how do you give this level of control to people about the tone and the rhythm of the song, and it's definitely a hard problem. And SENTRIS is just one way of exploring that, but it's a way that kind of is walking the tightrope between a puzzle game on one side and a musical instrument on the other. So trying to simplify it so that anybody can make a song that is unique to them.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. It's really intuitive and just like interesting watching sort of my actions kind of turning around. For those of you who are watching this might not quite understand what's happening, I'm trying to drop the circle. It's like made of these tiny little fragments. I'm trying to drop the fragments into the boxes and match them up to the colors. So it's really simple to get, even though it looks kind of weird if you're not playing. But yeah, it's just so beautiful. I'm having a lot of fun with this right now.
How does it sound?
It sounds really, really good. It's not, it's just really, it has a lot of rhythm to it. I'm guessing once we introduce more instruments into it, it starts to get a little bit more complicated and a lot more of an interesting sound kind of forms. Right now it feels like a really low kind of bass line of repetitive notes. It's really soothing.
Okay. Are you which puzzle are you on? Which colors are you matching right now?
I am on just blue and orange.
Okay.
I kind of made the mistake of, I didn't see the blue row in the center, and I just started matching up orange, and then once I had them all matched up, I was like, oh, I gotta match the blue.
Yeah.
Alright, I think I'm gonna get it this time, though. And... oh, no! Okay, I didn't time that
That's
correctly.
Like one of the things about the game is it's all about stacking. So really it's about order. And the way the stacking mechanics work, basically that trap you fell into is a trap by design, because I want people to look at the first thing first, the outermost, the immediate goal first, but then see that, oh, there's actually something more, and I have to think pretty differently about this now, and to see the effects of what you're doing, that it does have an effect.
Yeah, it seems really simple with the setup, but after you're playing it for a little while, it gets really complicated, and you realize that there's actually a lot of things that you need to be paying attention to.
It's almost a strategy music game.
Yeah.
When I was demoing this at the Seattle Indies Expo, I noticed that a lot of people were trying to do notes in quick succession. So music games have trained us to really think about our reflexes.
Yeah.
How do we do the correct combination of buttons at the appropriately speedy time? And SENTRIS is pretty different because it's not about doing anything perfectly or quickly or even, getting it right in the first try. It really is about, playfulness and experimentation and discovery. And as when you start out a new puzzle, there's a lot of different ways to solve it. At least a lot of different sounding ways to solve it.
Yeah.
But as you start putting notes in there, then the number of possibilities to finishing the solution decreases and decreases. So it's like you're working inside the confines that you have created for yourself.
Yes.
By playing. And that's one of the things that I really like about the current version. So one thing that, I don't know, are you still in orange and blue?
I'm still, but I think I've just figured it out. So Let me just give me a few seconds here. I gotta wait for everything to kind of rotate around. Yeah, working at it. It's definitely a puzzle I've never really experienced before, so it takes a little time. But I am getting there. Okay, and then we gotta fill up all these squares. I've got the blue down, and now I just have to fill up. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's not about doing it perfectly. Like I'm actually trying to in a few ways make some philosophical statement about games, because making music, I'm making SENTRIS because I had the incredible experience to know how it feels to make music, and I want to bring that feeling to everybody. And when you're making music, there is no right or wrong. There is no win state and lose state. Mm-hmm. So that's why there is no pressure in this game. And I've observed, it's been really interesting to me to watch people do one move and then go, oh, like they did it wrong. And it's like, well, how do I, it's on me to figure out how do I encourage people to just keep playing with it, to not think about doing it perfectly the first time, because there is no such thing as perfect. Yeah. There's only what you do and how to finish what you started.
Yes.
And so it really is like, I'm trying to have it be a relaxed but challenging experience.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I keep, it just gives me big pieces and I keep...
Yeah, so try this. So consider this. You don't have to stack the same color on top of another in order to push into place.
yeah, I'm figuring this out, and
You're also doing this. You're also doing this while hosting me, which
yes,
is a pretty tricky.
I feel terrible. I'm either neglecting one or the other, and I'm so bad at this. Let me put this down because I'm gonna want to come back and finish this later. But I do want to talk to you a little bit more about your thoughts on the game, because you raised some really interesting points about sort of the philosophy of this and such.
Sure.
Here we go.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. That was a fantastic first look, and there's just so much interesting things going on there. A lot of new things that I have not seen before in a puzzle game, which is fantastic.
Cool.
Okay, so let me go ahead and talk to you a little bit. You were talking sort of about the philosophy of not making mistakes and that kind of thing. That sounded really, really interesting. Can you elaborate on that a little more?
Sure. So, SENTRIS is a puzzle game that's all about helping people that are not, normally or regularly musically creative be musically creative. So there's a couple things that goes into that. The first is I love music games, and I want to give people a music game where they can play it and walk away with having created a song that is theirs, that is unique to them, and that everybody feels when they play it like, this is mine, I did this. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is that, let's see here. I'm making it because I had this experience playing in a band. I felt musically, creatively blocked for most of my life. Mm-hmm. I was in this cycle where about every 6 months I would, pull up Reason and then try to plunk around in Reason for a day, just be like, I want to make a song so bad. And then I would go for it, and at the end of the day, 8 hours, I would just be like, this is terrible, this doesn't sound good at all, it sounds like garbage, I can't do this, I'm no good at it, forget it, and I would just throw away my work. Yeah. And this cycle continued for years. And then what happened was I started working for Unity, and I continued loving music games because it did make it easier to feel like I was making music in a way. And so I went to Denmark to work for Unity, and one of my coworkers was in a band, and we were playing Rock Band one day, and I was on the drums, and he said, hey, you're pretty good at those drums. Do you want to come try playing the real drums? I was completely terrified by this prospect, but I said, yeah, sure. So I went and I started playing with this band called Moskauer Bluthund, which is German for the bloodhound from Moscow. And I witnessed these musicians that had been playing together for years. They went through the same struggle that I did, to play something all day, be totally unsatisfied with it at the end of the day. But the difference was they returned to their work after about 2 or 3 days, and I wasn't returning until about 6 months. Mm-hmm. So watching these guys and their process, really helped me. And over time, I felt like, okay, I played with this band long enough that I really do feel like I am making my own music now. It's like I learned this secret somehow to just stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think about where I was, and I think there are a lot of people out there that feel the same way. Where it's like, hey, I don't know how to play guitar. I would love to be able to play guitar, but it's so scary to think about trying. I'm just not even going to bother. Yeah. And so SENTRIS is a game for those people to just say, look, even if you don't play guitar or you don't play keyboard, you can play this puzzle game and you can make your own song, and you can think more about the puzzle or you can think more about the music as you play. But no matter what or how you play, what you're doing is unique to you, and it's something that you can take away with you at the end of your session.
That's totally beautiful. Yeah, I've always had an interest in music, but yeah, I cannot play an instrument for the life of me. I'm just terrible at it. But I just love listening to music.
Well, I hope to change your mind.
Yeah, no, but I really got into sort of the music game genre and how it was not, it wasn't really explored in games that much outside of just, rhythm, when it tells you to hit the button, hit the button.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's so much interactivity there that's possible. Well, at some point you have to ask, trust me, I've been keeping an eye on all these products and these games that have tried doing this, throughout all these different console and computer games about making music, and there's always
this dissonance between either some fun mechanic that makes the process of making music accessible to everybody versus just here's a bunch of tools that you could,
Yes.
it's a competitor with reason or with logic, to do whatever you want without a goal. So I think Centris is if it's not there yet, it's very close to this perfect balance between goal and freedom.
Yeah, I like that. I guess I sort of get the feeling that maybe that's from. It's a game first. It's not just an instrument, and
Exactly.
you can play with it, and you're playing a game, and the way that your actions are, they're creating music, whether you're maybe consciously thinking about creating that music yourself.
Mhm.
So there's a game called Proteus, which I guess some people would debate is not really a game, but I think it's a game.
Yeah, I like
And
Proteus a lot.
yes, and it kind of has that same feeling for me, where it's I'm not consciously putting the notes together, but I have a feeling that as I'm playing this game, I get the sense that what I'm doing is creating something really unique and beautiful, and I loved Proteus, and you kind of yeah, I mean, I didn't understand music, but I could understand that if I got closer to these objects, or if I walked to this certain area, that this music would be created based on my movements. And I just thought that was so fantastic and freeing and interesting. And I think you've got something there that's really kind of reminiscent of that in this puzzle game, which I love.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, I like Produce a lot because everything's so responsive, and it is this kind of truly open experience that reacts to you and whatever you do, and it goes above and beyond the music. I mean, there's all the different changing colors and like the teleportation and just
Yeah.
all this crazy stuff that happens in this game. So that's definitely an incredible experience, a game to experience. And I love that. And like, I love all forms of creativity in all these different ways. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I definitely, for me right now, the challenge is how do I make it more instrument-like? How do I take Centris, what it is now, and make the player more aware of what it's going to sound like before they hear it, and how to consciously control, much like playing an instrument, the progression and the harmony and the melody of the song. So that's this campaign that I'm doing now for Kickstarter is to fund the process of figuring that out, and that's going to include working with designers and artists and programmers, because I'm really I can I've been making this game by myself so far, but I think that I can only go so far by myself, and I definitely want to be working with some talented people and just have it be a good collaboration. Just it's always better to stand in a room with people and make music than to do it alone.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
why not do it with a game as well?
That's cool. I don't want to get too much into sort of like what you think on the game, because that's what you're hoping to expand with the game. That's for the Kickstarter, and I want everyone who's viewing this to check that out, because I really love this game.
Well, thank you.
At least the idea of this game, from what I've played and from what I've heard, just something like this I've been waiting for a really long time. So please, everyone, all 60 of you who are watching this, go look at it. Please give Samantha some money.
It's been an incredible experience, this campaign. It's like a little over halfway done. Trying to raise $50,000, and a bunch of that's going to go toward fees, and a bunch that's going to go toward the backer rewards.
Yeah.
I'm also being conscious of the tax man.
Yes.
But just the fact that in half the campaign, more than half of the money has been raised. All the people that have come out, like yourself, to
Yeah.
voice their support for like, hey, we really want something like this. That's been really encouraging.
Yeah.
I've just been working on this game for so long, on and off, that, and I've actually shipped versions of it in the past that didn't stick with anybody. So to be putting it out there now and receiving this kind of response, which is pretty much unanimous support, is really, really encouraging, and I'm really grateful for all of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been reading that you've been working really hard to get it out there into the public eye and kind of share it. You've been showing it to a lot of people. You've taken it to a couple of conventions, I believe. Is that?
Yeah, yeah. I first showed it over the summer during PAX. We had this thing called the Seattle Indies Expo. Um, and I got it in front of about 50 players. And this is actually the same version that you played.
Oh, okay.
And they gave me a bunch of feedback.
Yeah.
So and I was expecting I was expecting about half and half results. About half of everybody would say, I don't really get this, and the other half would say, I get it, but I don't think it's very fun. But what happened was I had about 80% of everybody come out and say, I get it, I like it, and they finished it.
That's awesome.
Which was really encouraging. So and they gave a bunch of feedback that I've been incorporating, and I'm continuing to work on new prototypes.
Yeah. Did they?
Yeah.
Can I ask about sort of like what it is that you're trying to fix from what you've heard? The people who've played it. Oh, sorry. The people who've played it. What kind of things you're trying to incorporate into it now that you've had a few more people play it?
A lot of it is the tutorialization. That startup sequence is kind of the first shot at introducing these elements of the game, the targets, and the sound blocks, and the sequences, and the canvas. So that's part of it, is introducing the matching mechanic. There's also a couple of other things, like some people think that, and this didn't even occur to me while I was developing it, but the size of the blocks, they thought that you couldn't put a larger block inside like a single target. So just this whole this experience has been really interesting to me in learning what is being communicated to the player as I build. What if I make a change in the game, how does that affect the player's experience, or what is that changing about the communication between Sentris and the player? So tutorialization is one thing. Let's see, there's some mechanics that I want to do for myself, like, again, I have a bunch of puzzle mechanics that I want to explore, but I have those sort of in my back pocket, and I'm not ready to talk about that stuff yet.
All right, no spoilers. I got you.
Yeah. Well, I just want, I'm a prototyper, so a lot of the times what happens in games is people will have conflicting opinions about what's a good decision to make. And and you'll have a lot of arguments about it, and I think that conversation is good, and that aligning vision among the team is good, but in some way, I also feel like you can never really know until you try it.
Yeah.
So this has been my philosophy, is to try everything that I can, and then see what happens, and see what works and what doesn't. So I have all these puzzle ideas for making it actually less rigid, for having even more variability in the sounds of the solutions, and the difficulty, and other attributes for the blocks, like what if some blocks merged together under some conditions, stuff like that. So a lot of things that I want to play with before I say, hey, this is part of the game.
All right.
And part of the Kickstarter is, people who back and receive the prototype award or select the prototype reward, they're going to get all these builds of these prototypes that I make throughout the rest of the production. So you'll get to see all these crazy, cool experiments that, I build to learn from. And then I take those learnings and I apply them to the finished, or to the full game and the finished game. But there may be, they may not look the same, they may not play the same. It's strictly like, a sort of invisible benefit. Like it's obvious to me, but maybe not obvious to the players.
Yeah, it's you've really got a nice, unique, really fascinating core here, and I'm looking forward to those. I think I'm gonna tune in to see what other builds you have here, because I want to play with this a lot more.
If you look at the pictures, you can see that there's a slightly different visual design on some of the pictures on the campaign, where you have sort of different sizes and spacings and it's very subtle. Like you have to look pretty closely to pick up on it. But you're actually seeing two different prototypes, and the newer one has not yet been played by humans, only by me.
Okay. Yeah, looking forward to that, definitely. All right, Samantha, thank you so much for sharing your game with us. If you would, I'd love to talk to you more just about your personal experience as a gamer, as a game creator,
Sure.
and your story. I really love hearing about that from the guests on the show.
Absolutely, yeah.
So just, tell me about how you got started in games, how you were introduced to them, and, just go from there.
Sure. So, gosh, when I was in first grade, I had a friend who had an NES, and I always wanted to be playing Super Mario Brothers on that thing. And I think his mom got really mad at me at one point. But I didn't have an NES of my own. My dad worked at the University of Washington, so we had a Mac Plus, which was great for word processing, but not for games, really. So, but I mean, I had a couple of things. I played Loom on that Mac Plus, black and white LucasArts adventure game. Actually, that was back when it was called Lucasfilm Games. It's not even around anymore. And I would play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at my friend's house, and I got a Super Nintendo for Christmas one year. It was a family gift, and I squeezed every little thing out of Super Mario World, every little secret. And I wasn't like, this is before GameFAQs.com, so
Yes.
there was only discovery through word of mouth. So when I actually remember stumbling onto like the hidden world in Super Mario World, which is like these 8 or 10 secret levels that only have a couple of entrances, and there's like the star warps around the map to get there.
Yeah.
First time I stumbled into that, I was like, what is going on? My mind is blown. And I think that it was really Final Fantasy 3/6 that was the first game that made me want to make games. I loved the ensemble cast. I loved the story. I loved the combat and like the leveling up with like the magicite. I loved this battle. It was like, okay, so it's Kefka is the bad guy in that game, and there's this scene I would guess it's in the first third of the game, where you return, like you start out in this city and you go off and you have these adventures and you build up a party, and then Kefka starts doing bad stuff around the world, so you return to this starting city with more people, and he's like there with the evil army, and some bad shit's about to go down, and you have this epic battle where you split your group up into these three subgroups, and you have to like take out all these different enemies around this map as you're trying to walk up to Kefka to fight him. And I had to do that whole sequence twice, I think, because like I wasn't min-maxing at the time. Like I was just playing,
Yeah.
And so it was a challenge. It was a challenging battle for me. And when I beat that boss and saw how the story developed after that point, I think I just put the controller down and was like, that was so cool. Like the tension of trying to beat this battle, and then the failure, and then the retry, and the success, and like now the story's moving on. I would love to make this. I would love to make games like this. But again, I wasn't like mathematical, so I thought, here's another thing I can't do that I want to do. Then what happened was I didn't really try making games until I was in my 20s. I was working as a tester, like a website tester, testing installers and really, really boring stuff.
Yeah.
And I was learning programming for that job because I could be a better tester if I could do automation. And I found this little tool called Unity. And Unity was like version 1.0.1 or 1.0.2, and it was only for the Macintosh. It was 3D, and it was expensive. It was $250 for the cheapest version, because there was no free version back then. And there was just this little tiny community of like 100 people using it. And I was like, okay, well, I could buy this thing and I could keep learning programming and make games and work at home because I had a Mac at home.
Hmm.
And so I jumped in and just spent a bunch of time like playing with Unity and trying to do like a top-down shooter, like shoot 'em up game, like a 1942 style. I made a puzzle game called Chaos Machine with this guy in California, um, and just started working on these really, really bad games. They were all so terrible, um, and it was just a matter of sticking with it. So eventually, I noticed that Unity didn't have a test like department. You know, there were 3 or 4 guys in like a university like meeting room at the IT University of Copenhagen. And I was like, hey, you guys don't have any testers. Like, you should hire me as a tester. And they were like, yeah, okay, haha. And it took it took a couple of years of nagging them. And I wrote some documentation for Unity 1.5, did that for free, just so they would know who I was, and just stuck with it. And eventually they hired me. And then I moved over to Denmark and I worked in the offices in Copenhagen making Unity and shipping that engine for iPhone and for Windows
Awesome.
and new features and helping people make games.
Yeah.
So that was crazy times. It was a lot of work and it was living abroad and it was a lot of devotion. And my game development time kind of dwindled. So
Yeah.
eventually I just wanted to get back to making games, and it just made sense for me to try to go off on my own and do the independent thing. And tried that once and ran out of money, and then I worked at Amazon for a while, and now I'm in my second attempt. So I'm hoping that it sticks this time.
Yeah, yeah, you're definitely on a good track this time, I think.
I hope so. I'm
Yeah.
feeling good about things. It's still a lot of ambiguity in terms of like, is this campaign going to be successful? Is the game, when it's done, going to sell as well as I want? It's a lot of unknown questions, but I think
Yeah.
that's part of the fun.
Yeah, it's a challenge and it requires a little bit of luck and it's really exciting either way, I should think. Um,
I'm just really glad and really grateful to be working on something that I care so much about.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
even though it's incredibly difficult to do all of this, it's really rewarding, like to take it to the shows and to talk with wonderful people like yourself that are interested in what I'm doing. Like that makes it worthwhile.
Well, I mean, I just I could geek out about games all day, I guess, but
Totally.
I think I think games are just God incredible. They do all these wonderful things and give us all these wonderful experiences. And when someone's trying to put something really new and interesting out there, I want to go talk to them. I want to go share it with as many people as I can. You know, I mean,
Yeah, girl. I
love
mean,
games.
I've played Halo back in the day. I'm done with first person shooters. I don't want to make one. I want to play something new.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I figure that's the strength that any independent team can have, is that they have this purity of vision that if they can attain it, then they can, send a message or have a conversation with the player that no one has had before in a game.
yeah.
And I think that that's important to balance out the mainstream sort of content changes with the same mechanics that we get year after year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely exciting times that we live in because it's games are just starting to really, really get popular with the community at large, but at the same time, there's a lot of unexplored territory, which really excites me. That you can come up with something just that no one's ever seen before. Like that's a possibility if you really put your mind to it. So
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
blows my mind. Okay, well, I think we've ran about 12 minutes over half an hour, but
Sweet.
I want to put it all up there. So I apologize, viewers, if you're sticking with us for that long, but hopefully you've gotten something really, really great from this. Samantha, I have one last question to ask you.
Sure.
I would think that maybe some game design hopefuls out there watch this show at some point. That's really what my goal is, that we learn together. And every guest that I've had, I've always wanted to ask them, do you have any advice for people who want to design games and want to make those things for a living?
Any advice? That's a great question. I need to buy myself a moment here to think about what I want to say.
That's fine. I should have asked you earlier. I usually
Um,
tell my guests like, oh, by the way, that's the big last question. Uh,
I
don't blow
think
it.
that I think that what I want to say is that no matter where you're starting from, we all start from the same place. So if you know what you want to do, if you know what kind of thing, or what kind of game, what kind of book, what kind of film you want to create, but you don't feel like you know how to get there, the best way to learn is by doing. And, Centris has been a 6-year project for me, and it's far from done. So don't be intimidated by the amount of time, and take every opportunity you can to learn. But the only way to avoid to avoid achieving your dream is to just stop trying.
Mhm.
So just keep trying.
Awesome, awesome, inspirational stuff.
Thank you. I try to not. I try to go there.
Yeah, get
Not a lot
deep.
of people go there.
Yeah, most of our guests are like, oh, market yourself, and it's like, oh,
Drink more beer.
okay. Well, thank you, Samantha. This has been such a fun interview. I think it's probably,
Thank you, Tess.
yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So, thank you very much, viewers. Next Ramble, we've got a couple more Kickstarter folks who are going to come on and talk to you. So, looking forward to that. And again, Samantha's game is called SENTRIS. It's on Kickstarter right now. It's still got a few days left, if I understand correctly. Let me see how far you guys have got to go.
I think we're at $17,500 still to be raised over 14 days. And we've got a couple of stretch goals, and the stretch goals are just going to make it so that everybody can be, bringing in more like their own sounds, build their own puzzles sooner. So, please tell your friends, check out the project, even if you can't back. Talking to people about it is really, really helpful for the campaign.
Yep.
And I would love to blow away $50,000 and just make something super awesome with version 1. If not, it will get better with version 2. But, let's just try to get this thing as great as possible out the door.
Yeah. So everyone who's listening in, go support it. It's a really unique concept. It could bring about a lot more interesting games in the future. But you've got to support it if that's sort of your thing. So thank you again, Samantha. I'm going to stop rambling on now and end the show. It's been great having you, and we'll see you guys.
Thank you so much for
Hey guys, this is Sheik Matsu. Thanks for listening in. Want to apologize really quick for the poor quality of the audio. I was recording the interview on my laptop at the time, which had a little bit of difficulty handling the game and the interview, but I think overall it went good. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, all that YouTube bullshit, and of course, go support Samantha Kalman and her wonderful game SENTRIS on Kickstarter. It's still live. Go give that all your support and all your money and all that wonderful stuff. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye! Alright, here we go. I'm gonna solve this puzzle. I can screw this up now. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Boom! Yes! Did it! Yeah. That's how we roll.